Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a lot of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about a deck building game with a theme that we like quite a bit. We're going to be talking about Marvel Legendary, and in this game you'll be trying to buy cards that will enhance your deck that you'll be playing to attempt to defeat one of the villains in this game that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like. We'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Marvel Legendary is still worth playing several years after it was first released. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you after this. Bollocks. So the first thing you're going to do in this game is you're going to put the board in the centre of the table, and you have to do a little bit of setup. You're going to grab all of your starting cards, so you're going to get 8 shield agents and 4 shield troopers. You'll shuffle that little deck and you'll draw 6 cards as you start an hand. You'll choose one of the masterminds in the deck. The masterminds are like the super villains, and you'll place its 4 tactic cards underneath the villain card, right? You'll pick one scheme at random, and then you'll add the villain's twists to the deck, and you'll also throw in 5 master strikes, right? These are really nasty. So you'll pick 5 heroes at random, you'll shuffle all their cards together, and that will give you a deck of 70 cards where you're going to be drawing from. So this game is really simple. On your turn you're going to do 3 things. You're going to draw the next card of the villain deck and resolve it. Then you'll play cards from your hand, and you'll use these to recruit stuff and also fight other villains, right? And then you'll do the generic deck building thing where you'll discard all of the cards in your hand, and then you'll draw back up to 6. So when you draw the top card of the villain deck, you'll place them in the city. The first space on the city track is the sewers, so you'll place the villain there, and if there's any other villains on the city spaces, you'll shuffle them up towards the left, right? So if a villain ever drops off of the city spaces, then they will have escaped. So in that case you'll knock out a hero that costs 6 or less, and you'll chuck them on a naughty step, which is the knockout pile. So there's cards in this game called bystanders. If an escaping villain has any bystanders in their grasp, then you will have to discard a card from your hand. If the villain card that you draw is a bystander, you stick it under the villain card that's closest to the villain deck on the city, right? So if the card that you draw is a scheme twist card, you'll look at the twist effect on the main scheme card and you will resolve its effect. So there's also master strike cards. These are really nasty. You will look at the master strike effect on the mastermind card and you'll have to resolve its effect. For instance, the Red Skull master strike effect means that each player has to knock out a hero from their hand and have to dump it on the naughty step, the knockout pile, right? So the next thing you can do is you could play cards from your hand to recruit and fight. You'll notice that each card that you have in your hand has a recruit points value on the left hand side. You'll play as many cards from your hand as you like to add up these points, and you'll spend them by taking cards from the main display, right? The amount that each card costs is in the bottom right hand corner, and the cost of each card is dependent on how powerful it is. So if you look at the Iceman deck, you've got cards ranging from 4 to 8, 8 being the most powerful card, and Iceman's most powerful card says, if a villain master strike or mastermind tactic would cause you to gain any wounds or discard any cards, you may reveal this card instead. So in addition to this, most characters have a superpower ability denoted by a specific icon. So if you look at the Hulk character, then he's got this big green fist. If you're playing a card that matches that symbol, and this symbol may be on other characters, then you'll be able to activate the superpower ability. So for instance, Hulk has loads of different superpower abilities, so you might get +1 attack, or you may knock out a wound from your hand or the discard pile. If you do, you get +2 attack, right? There's loads and loads of these superpower abilities, and they do augment the game mechanics somewhat, right? So if you want to fight a villain, all you got to do is play cards with attack values that is equal or more than the villain's attack value, and then what you'll do, you'll take the villain card and you'll put it on your victory pile, and each villain card has a certain amount of victory points attached to it, right? So once you've done that, then you will discard everything else in your hand. Everything will go on a discard pile, and you'll draw back up to 6 cards, and the next player will then take their turn, right? So in order to win this game, you've got to defeat the mastermind, right? So you've got the option of choosing to attack the mastermind. It works in the same way as attacking run-of-the-mill villains, but each mastermind has 4 tactic cards associated with it, and you're going to have to defeat those tactic cards in order to win the game, right? So when you choose to fight a mastermind, you take a random card from the mastermind tactic deck and you'll place it in your victory pile, and then you'll follow the fight instruction on the card. So for instance, if you're trying to fight Magneto, you might have to recruit a Magneto hero from the HQ for free, or each other player reveals a Magneto hero or gains 2 wounds, right? So these add quite a bit of flavour to a game, and if they weren't in there, it'd be a little bit boring, wouldn't it? So in order to win the game, you have to defeat the Mastermind 4 times, and if the Mastermind ever completes the requirements of their evil scheme, then they will win the game, and everyone will lose the game of Marvel Legendary. So what do we like about Marvel Legendary? So the first thing that we really like about this game is the fact that there is an online community that produces loads and loads of custom cards that allow you to expand the game basically for the cost of printing out the cards, right? We've gone over to that site and we've printed off loads of custom cards. We've created a deck for old 1970s icons like Dazzler. We've done the Black Knight, Captain Britain, Union Jack, all those sorts of things. And the fact that this game is supported so vociferously by a huge community means this game is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as time progresses. So the second thing that we really like about Marvel Legendary is the fact that they chose to keep the traditional Marvel superheroes in their traditional clobber. They didn't go for this bondage gear, leather-clad gimp suits that were in the movies, right? So the fact that Wolverine is still donning his yellow and blue spandex really gets me excited, you know what I mean? So the next thing that we really like about Marvel Legendary is the fact that a lot of the special abilities are directly linked to other characters. So for instance, if you're playing with some X-Men, then those characters are going to be bouncing off of each other. So for instance, if you look at Captain America, he has icons that are related to both the Avengers and Hulk, and it also looks like he's best mates with Wolverine as well. So they've gone through and they've made sure there's this intricate web of abilities that thematically complement other characters, right? And that's really, really super. So what don't we like about Marvel Legendary? So the first thing that we don't like about Marvel Legendary is that you don't actually get to play as the characters that are in your hand, right? I am a massive fan of this thing. This is the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game from TSR. It's first released in 1984, and I really like the fact that you get to play as the actual character in this, albeit simple role-playing game. That sort of feeling doesn't exist in this one. It's almost like you're sort of peering through a window, watching these characters do something that you're not actually controlling, you know? You're not actually taking control of Spider-Man. You're not actually taking control and all of these characters directly. So there's a sort of sense of disconnect that I don't really like about this game, you know? So the next thing that we don't like about Marvel Legendary is that it got to the point where the expansions were sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel. They started dipping their toe into that weird alternative universe where Hulk sort of becomes Thor and all that sort of shit. And I really didn't like that. Being a child of the 70s, yes, I know I am really that old. I'm a big fan of the old traditional Marvel stuff, and I think it sort of peaked for me back in the 80s when they had the Secret Wars series going on, and when it all turned into this cinematic universe and all that sort of bollocks, I really got turned off by it, and this is no exception. Don't get me wrong, some of the expansions are really good. The Dark City expansion is fantastic, and a lot of the small box expansions are pretty good. But then they ran out of quality stuff to chuck in this game, and now maybe it's got a little bit too big for its boots, and maybe there's too much low quality variety in this one. So the next thing we don't like about Marvel Legendary is simply a Dominion clone with a Marvel theme slapped on it. At the time, it probably seemed like it was a good idea because Dominion was all the rage back then, and they probably thought, let's take the premise of a really popular, innovative game and chuck a Marvel theme on it so that we can sell bucket loads of units. And it worked. But for me, Dominion works better, and that don't even have a bloody theme, does it? This really is just a sort of generic Dominion clone. And the only reason for me to play this, it does have a Marvel skin slapped on it, you know. So the final thing we don't like about Marvel Legendary, and this is a problem with a lot of deck builders, is that sometimes there's literally nothing on offer to buy, and you haven't got bugger all but wounds and stuff in your hand. So there are occasions when you're playing this where you're thinking, there's just nothing exciting going on. And to be honest, it does get a little bit boring. So to summarise, is Marvel Legendary still worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we're going to say no. The reason being is that it's a decent generic deck builder that really lives and dies on whether or not you are enamoured with the theme enough. This type of game feels really, really dated these days. I mean, deck building has come on leaps and bounds. This one feels like it's living in the 70s, which is ironic because that's my favourite Marvel period. Essentially, this is just a Dominion clone with a Marvel theme slapped on, and you have to ask yourself 2 questions. Do you like Dominion? Do you like deck builders? And do you like the Marvel theme? If the answer is yes to both of these, then this is a no-brainer. But if either one of those doesn't tickle your fancy, then we can't recommend Marvel Legendary to you. And if I'm honest with you, I'm not really a big fan of this game, so we can't recommend Marvel Legendary. I much prefer Dominion, or even hybrid games like Mage Knight, where you've got a little bit of deck building in there, but it isn't the sole focus of the game, right? So that's Marvel Legendary. Remember, if you are new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you next time.